go. So I found the right spot right here. Okay, I'm going to do an introduction to knife throwing today. And I've got 3 different sets of knives. This is one style I've got. That's my newest, most recent one. The very first set looked like this, pretty simple, stainless steel, pretty durable. It did have a similar rope handle as these at the beginning, but if you throw enough of them, the knives are gonna hit each other. This stuff's gonna cut eventually. You're gonna cut it, it's gonna come off, you're gonna lose it, which is ultimately what happened here. So get your first set, your first set of 3, and start cheap. You don't need to spend hundreds of dollars here. Go down to your store and get some knives. This is what my son and I. My son was 10 at the time, or so, 9 or 10. We started with a set of 3 of these, and we got rolling. Similarly, the best targets are, where you got end grain on the log. You get the best sticks. My son and I actually started with a foam target first, and then later, went to logs. And logs are, they're cheap, and there's lots of them around. I got these 5. Somebody cut down a willow tree and loaded them into the truck. And they were over 100 pounds each when they were wet. I think they've lightened up a bit, but they're still heavy. Anyway, so we're gonna get rolling here on introductory to knife throwing. So, the basics to get started. You want to make it as easy for yourself as possible. So keeping in mind, when you're throwing a knife, it's all about the rotation through the air, similar to the hatchets. And if you're holding it like this, it's got to go one full rotation to stick into the target. So I found that was harder. So I started with a half rotation, and I found that was an easier way to learn, where literally I'm just holding it, like this, 2 fingers and a thumb, and you take your first toss and you're doing half a rotation. So you end up being close to the target. You don't have to throw too hard. I found that to be a nice way to start. And so similarly, you got to get that distance right. You want to make sure you're holding it the same way every time, so that you're removing the variables. So, for me, I hold it like this with the tip on the edge of my 2 fingers there, and I do it the same way every time. Don't flick your wrist. If you start flicking your wrist, you're adding another variable. And that is something you can do later. If you choke up on it like this, it'll flip quicker and it'll change the rotation. And if you only have 1 finger, same thing. So you want to be, consistency is everything. And consistency with your throwing and your stance is also key. So with that, we're going to get started. I haven't thrown these knives for a while, so this will be live. I'm going to be figuring it out again, where my distance is with the tip throw. So let's get started with that. What happens is if I'm too far back, the knife's going to over rotate and it's going to hit here, flat side like that. And if I'm, and that'll be tipped down. If I'm too close, I'm going to hit handle down, because it doesn't have time to rotate. So that's the key thing, is once you get, as you're figuring out that sweet spot, if it's flying through the air and I'm hitting handle down, it means I'm too close. If it's hitting tip down, it means I'm too far away. It's over rotating. Ideally, this would be a bit higher. I'm trying to figure out the distance here, so let's see if I can get it. Okay, no. You got to watch carefully too. To where it is, okay? So I've got to figure that out. And sometimes it's hard to see. Consistent here. Okay, no. Okay, that looked a little better. A bit here. Yes, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it yet. This is pretty typical. So there we go. So I found the right spot right here. There we go. So that's the perfect spot for a tip throw. So typically, you're going to mark the spot with your foot, for your front foot. Okay, so I got to go back a bit. Okay, so I'm right in there, right in the money. So you get that consistency going. Okay, so I found the sweet spot, pretty close to the sweet spot. I was in the same spot, and I got the two, the two in. So now I'm going to give it the up close from the same spot. So it's flying towards the target, rotating as it's going. If it hits handle down, once again, I'm too close. If it's point down, I'm too far away. Let's do it. So I was in the same spot there, but didn't have quite the consistency I was looking for. There we go. Okay. So that's the tip throw, the easiest way to start, where you're throwing with the tip, and it's basically a half rotation. So I'll show you that here again. I'm doing the tip throw, and basically all the knife has to do is rotate pretty much half of a turn to get the stick. So from when it leaves your hand, it's doing a half a rotation to the stick. Bang. So half rotation, stick.